Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your host, Kevin Thompson, here once again with the Salad Bowl podcast. Today, we're going to be jumping into a episode that I know that I will look back on and truly cherish. We'll be talking to one of my mentors and somebody that I consider a great leader, a great friend, just an overall great person. So with that being said, I'm extremely excited to present the next episode of the Salad Bowl podcast. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Salad Bowl. We're here today with somebody that I truly look up to. I would say is a mentor of mine, a good friend. As I was driving over here today, I was thinking, like, how do I introduce this guy? Because he just means so many different things. He fits so many different lanes for me. I actually kind of want him to introduce himself because I know that there's so many layers when it comes to even exploring this salad bowl concept that he's going to bring to the table. I do want to welcome you, Billy. We got Billy Andrew Richardson here with us today. Welcome to the Salad Bowl.
Thanks so much.
How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing wonderful.
That's good.
Doing wonderful. Yes, indeed.
That's good to hear. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there that I'm probably going to have a smile on my face for most of this time because I really enjoy, we have great conversations.
Indeed.
And like I said, you have so many different layers to you. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you. My first question for you, Billy, is of course, I know who you are to me, but if you had to introduce yourself, how do you think you would introduce yourself?
Well, as you did, Billy Andrew Richardson.
Okay, yes.
So name, again, born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1978. My kind of tragic beginning, I have a twin. Mother passed away having me and my twin sister. We have an older brother. Grandmother on my mom's side raised us. We were raised pretty much on the West Coast. We left from the Midwest, ended up in Las Vegas. From there, grew up, raised there pretty much. Joined the Marine Corps from high school. I was in a junior ROTC program in high school. Decided to join the military, so joined the Marine Corps. That's where I met you.
Of course, yeah.
For the audience. Joined the Marine Corps. I did that for 28 years. An administrator by trade, but one of my fabulous, famous best jobs during that time was equal opportunity, being an equal opportunity advisor. So of my 28 years in the service, that's the job that I've done. I've had the most proudest and every day going to bed knowing that I made a difference. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I have served 15 of my 28 years under the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. That wasn't fun. But again, as a proud descendant of enslaved people, resiliency has always been a key point, and I'm grateful for my ancestors for passing it down. Been serving, and I just recently retired.
Good for you.
So thank you so much.
Good for you.
And I'm bored.
Sure.
So I'll be looking for something else to do in the meantime. But no, it's been great. But those are some highlights of me, career wise and things like that. I'm an avid reader. I read. That's just what I do for fun. I read books about psychology, sociology, self-help, diversity, equity, inclusion, history, government policy, things of that nature. Those are the things I do for fun. Those would be some of the highlights.
Yeah, I'm glad you started off like that because I think it was Trevor Noah. I was watching one of his stand-up comedy sessions, and he was saying how Americans, we oftentimes only describe ourselves by what we do as far as occupation. So I like the fact that you gave us a broader picture of who you are other than your occupation for the last 28 years.
Sure.
That it comes with being a reader, and you look into a lot of different things. I think that's one of the great things about you.
Thank you so much.
Before we get to your career, which I would assume took up a majority part of your life, I kind of want to ask you some questions about, like, who was Billy before he showed up as a private in the Marine Corps back in the 90s. So, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to age you there, but
it's okay. Trust me, it's okay. Hey, it's okay.
Exactly.
I'm proud of my age. I'm a whole whopping 46 years old. I am so proud of it.
That I'm hoping that my body still works like yours does when I'm 46 years old.
Thank you so much.
But no, when we talk about showing up before the Marine Corps, and seeing as though this podcast is going to be more just exploring who people are, not necessarily just based off of their occupation, can you give us a little bit of an insight of like who Billy Andrew Richardson was before he showed up on some yellow footprints and chose to be a United States Marine?
Well, it's great question, and that is really a lengthy answer. But what I'll say is I don't give the Marine Corps a lot of credit for who I am now, because I've been who I am. But what the Marine Corps has done, and I'm so grateful for it, is have introduced me to myself. I think there's been situations put before me, and you don't know what you're capable of until those situations arise. You think it's in there, you hope it's in there,
yes.
But it's not till it happens. You know, it's just like weightlifting. I can tell you I lift 500 pounds. I can tell you that, and I sure hope. Right. And I can brag about it, I sure hope, but it's not until you get under that weight and you start to lift is when it matters, and you get to really see what you're made out of. So, lots of stuff. And even as I introduced myself and started off with a traumatic story, because that's just how it began for me. But, Dr. King talked about, it's not about how you start up, it's how you end up.
Yes.
Just again, resiliency again. Lots of things transpired, and won't go into some of my family drama, as I know many families have that. But I'm just happy to be in a place. And again, I'm still working on this building. I'm still working on me. Yeah. But Whitney Houston said it best: learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And that took a minute. Even realizing and learning that I'm not broken, that this is just, in fact, me. This is who I am. And that took some time. That took some time, some wounds, some scars, some internal conflict, some external conflict,
yes.
some interpersonal conflicts, some, it took some time. And but I'm glad that I've had the privilege to do the work. And I'm, again, still working on this building. And if you've heard me say 101 times, this is who I am now, and I reserve the right to change.
Yes.
I think once you stop changing, you stop. That's the end.
Yes.
And it's every conversation, every interaction is supposed to be change and evolution. It's supposed to add. These are all ingredients that are just walking by, adding to your pot.
Yes.
And every now and again you get a bad one, and you got to do what you got to do with it. But for the most part, it's all adding to you.
Yes.
It's a complicated question, but.
That's a great answer, and I've heard you say a million times, and I actually learned this from you, is that it's hard to learn, but it's even harder to unlearn.
Oh yes.
In situations where that phrase becomes relevant for you, are there some things that you had to unlearn as Billy Andrew Richardson, apart from the Marine Corps, that you're still working on, or that you've overcome today?
And again, that's an ongoing one too, because I think you don't realize that you're doing something until someone or something calls you out. And sometimes it's how you react to something or how you don't react to something. It's not always your actions. A lot of times it's your inactions.
Yeah.
Why didn't that offend me? Why didn't I respond to that? Why didn't I speak up on that person's behalf? Why didn't I call that out? What was it why did I normalize that? If you've been around certain things and it's routinely practiced around you, that becomes your norm. That becomes your new standard. That becomes the new way things are done around here. And when you realize, that gap between who you are and who you want to be, and you mind that gap, you tend to that gap, that's where the work begins. I know that I did or I didn't do certain things, but I wish I would have. And instead of living in regret, I have to unlearn that. I have to unlearn that, and it's a very much a to do thing. It's something that you actually have to do. It's not something that just happens automatically. If you've been taught one thing and you've been practicing that thing, and again, I'm 46 years old, so again, for decades, you've been doing something. Stuff don't just pull out. These things have taken root.
Yes.
And not only does it to unlearn it, but you have to dig up some things. And sometimes when you're digging up some things, other things come along with it.
Yes.
You don't when we go out to pull up a tree, it don't just come easily. Those things have taken root, and it's some other things will possibly get broken up in the process.
This is true.
But that's what the work looks like.
Yes.
That's what the work looks like. So it's an ongoing thing. You look at a movie, you have a conversation, and you're like, man, something else to work out. Or how you react and respond to something.
Yes.
Or how you don't react and respond to it and say, why didn't that affect me? That's when the unlearning should start occurring.
100%.
That's got to be something you actually actively have to do.
100%. You bring up even as the small things like watching a movie. Of course, you and I spoke before you showed up here today. We recently both just watched the movie Wicked that just came out. I thought it was a phenomenal movie. I will say that I never was exposed to the plays or anything that came before me seeing the movie. And I was taken back as far as how many parallels, even for myself, how it walked. That movie made me feel a lot of different things, just in the broader scope of my career, my life, how things play out, and how we have this narrative of what we all may know as far as the Wizard of Oz.
Sure.
But we don't really know the backstory of even somebody we consider a villain. That movie was phenomenal to me. What were some of your thoughts on it?
Oh man! So again, I had the privilege. I saw it once on Broadway and once here in New Orleans at the Sanger Theater. And again, saw it, and I thought they did a phenomenal job. And if I can credit you for being able to see a movie like that, and it's where empathy begins. I think so many times we sit in a theater, whether that be on Broadway, Sanger, or even a theater called Life, and we watch other people and other things, but we don't empathize. We don't put ourselves in the shoes of that other person, which is why it's so easy to have these conversations and not feel anything, because that's them and this is us. It's not my problem. And I think sitting in a movie theater and watching that and applying it to your personal life. I'm a writer, and one of the things that I've talked about in some of my writing is to train your brain. Train your brain. Train yourself to be able to sit in a room, listen to people's story, and kind of own it. Own it for yourself. Own it for yourself. In other words, how does this apply to me? How can I really get what they're saying? So I just want to give you some credit for that. That's amazing. But again, I thought they did a phenomenal job. Sounds crazy. So the Wizard of Oz has always been, again, one of those movies as a kid. We've watched it 101 times. Yes. And I think every time I've watched The Wizard of Oz, I learned something new. There's so much in that movie. And this is before we even get to the I was going to say The Wiz, but that's all these movies that coming off The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
But, looking at my retirement ceremony, I had 3 flags. One was the prisoner of war, killed in action, missing in action flag.
Yes.
That represents those who were in those statuses, who are missing, who were killed in action, or prisoners of war. The second flag that I had was actually one that's represented here by the shirt that I'm wearing now. Here's the Double V campaign. And what the Double V campaign is, it really started from a letter written from a gentleman named James P. Thompson, actually.
Really?
He wrote a letter asking the question, because now folks were, the draft was around and about, and they were asking black folks to join the military. And he asked just a really simple question to sum up his small essay or his small article. It just asked, should I give up my whole life just to live half American? And the shirt says democracy at home and abroad. So the service members during that time, you'll see pictures like this because they were fighting not just for victory abroad, but they were also fighting for victory at home. They were fighting for fascism, fighting against fascism abroad, but fighting against racism at home. And the question, again, asked here on my shirt says, if we are to have no democracy at home, it does not make a great deal of difference what happens abroad. So again, it's just those who served and those African Americans who were served unappreciated, thankless jobs, who again shed the same blood, but some of those service members were treated less than the German prisoners of war. They could eat in the main cafeteria, but we still had to sip out of the colors only arena. And then the third flag was the LGBT flag, and that's for all of the service members who couldn't live and serve and be their authentic selves. They had to hide, they had to pretend and be who the military wanted them to be. And again, truth be told, don't ask, don't tell is not a new policy. That was actually the one in my household and amongst many of my friends who they're not going to ask me and they don't want me to tell them. So it's a hidden identity. In this case with the military, again, it's not your closet, it's the Department of Defense's closet. So, you're locked in someone else's closet, can't come out. And then constantly of the threat of who will find you, the anxiety. And this isn't about losing friends, this is about losing your career. Having to compromise and for the right to defend your country. We have and we will continue to look back on this amazed at just the ridiculously of it. Individual Airman Matlovich, Leonard Matlovich, on his gravestone, it says something along the lines of awarded 2 medals or more awarded medals for killing 2 men and discharged for loving 1. And so say all that to say that, the rainbow flag that I put there, it represents the LGBT flag. And I think what the creator of that flag was doing, I think there's a kind of attachment to that movie because those of us who've had to, deal with the discrimination and persecution, oppression, and ill treatment because of our sexual orientation, just want to believe that somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, that there's a place that I dreamed of once in a lullaby, that I would be treated with the same dignity and respect as the person to my left and my right, not judged by who I love and even why I love them. People go into this whole conversation about nature versus nurture. I can argue it, but what's the difference?
Right.
What's the difference? As an American citizen, do I not have a right to love who I love? It's just it's really ridiculous. But my point being that the flag that had there for that reason, somewhere over the rainbow. And one of the things I didn't say in my retirement ceremony, I was going to click my core frames 3 times and be on my way out. But again, as you recall, I was just overtaken by emotion, and so I didn't get to do or say nearly as much as I wanted to. But it's okay. I'm a writer. You'll read about it later.
Oh yes.
But yeah, again, back to the movie. Pardon the segue, but I thought they did a phenomenal job. I thought the characters were spot on. The voices, the acting, and one of the things, having seen it on the stage, when you're watching something on stage, there's so much to be missed because you're looking all over the stage. But when the camera is there, they can take that camera, just as this one, you can edit it and get all the way into my eye to know that I mean business, or you as the director get to edit it and point the direction of we're all acting, but you get to get the camera to show the audience what you really want them to pay attention to. So there were some things, even some facial expressions that meant more because I was able to see it on the silver screen as opposed to the play. And on stage, you don't see those things. And I don't care how close your seats are, you're going to miss some things because you don't know to look at those things. But when a talented, skillful director, your Spike Lee's out there, I know exactly what I want you to look at. I can think of, in movie, I Do the Right Thing, and there were certain camera lenses that Spike Lee did on, wanted you to show you Radio Raheem doing certain things or saying certain things to make the point. It made that difference where that camera lens is. So again, phenomenal movie. I'm looking forward to part 2. It was long, but that gave me a warm and fuzzy because that said that they didn't skip parts. They didn't chop it up just to fit into the hour and a half, whatever. I got my money's worth.
Yes.
I got to see everything I needed, and I'm looking for and hungry for some more. So absolutely phenomenal movie. Yes.
Thank you for that answer because I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I don't want to spoil the movie for people who haven't seen it. So we won't go all the way into all the details, but definitely highly suggest.
Go see it.
Please go see that movie. And I would love to hear y'all's feedback on what you thought about the movie Wicked.
And if I may, and don't only just go see it, but train your brain.
Yes.
Watch that movie. Don't just think of what Galinda or Elphaba's going through. Consider about how that applies to you. And I encourage you to do that with all the movies and books that you read and write. If you're just, life shouldn't just be a spectator sport where we're just sitting around watching other people go through things. Yes, someone wise said you learn from your mistakes, but I promise you, I would rather learn from somebody else's. If I can watch somebody else go through some things and learn some things, see some things on the silver screen and be like, you know what? Noted.
Yes.
That can save me some hair. That can save me some skin. That can save me some time. That can save me some hurt.
Of course.
And again, life's not easy enough that you can figure it all out via movies and books, but where you can fit it in and apply it to your life, please do that. Again, train your brain. I'm sorry,
100%. It brings me back to what you were saying earlier, right? When you're talking about being in the United States Marine Corps, being in the LGBT community, and how you couldn't show up as your authentic self. And hence why I'm doing this podcast right now, because I want to explore who people are authentically. Right. There were some things that I had to unlearn as far as, I also joined the Marine Corps at a very early age. And you say all the time that culture, just pretty much a basic definition of culture is just how things look around here. Sure. And there's many things that we pick up just based off of the things that we see rather than what somebody told us of how to do things, and in joining the Marine Corps in the early 2000s, I would say that I had a specific bias based off the rules that we did have when it came to don't ask, don't tell against people who were of that umbrella. Sure. And it wasn't until later in my career, I would say probably more than 10 to 12 years of my career, I would say that I took those ideologies and I took them on for myself. And I think back now, and the empathy part of me really is what changed my mindset. As much as people may or may not know of me, I even started off my first episode of this podcast with my wife. I love the hell out of my family. I talk about my kids all the time. You've seen me at work. We shared spaces together. One thing I pride myself on, and I would say is the majority of who I pride myself to be, is my family.
Sure.
And then one day I remember thinking to myself, like, wait, if that's who I authentically show up as every single day, where after a weekend I come in and I say, yeah, me and the wife did this weekend. I brought the kids over here and we went and saw, this Disney movie to where most likely there was a male kissing a female on the screen. And it just, everything was just totally fine with that narrative of how my weekend went. But I thought to myself, I said, wait, there are some people who cannot live that same life. And how much are they putting up of themselves before they show up to work? Or how do you have to compartmentalize yourself in order to show up and do the same job that I do when you can't show up as your authentic self? Can you kind of explain how much of a issue that may have been for you coming up for the first 15 years of your career?
Yeah. And thanks for asking that and even sharing your insight on that. You know, coming out is a sacred thing. It is a sacred thing. I know many people who actually resent it because they feel like, well, why should I have to come out if heterosexual folks don't have to come out?
Good
Why
point.
can't I just be? And they're right. But also, how one decides to come out, if one decides to come out, it's their prerogative. And I feel like people should respect that. You know, it was actually just recently in the last few days, someone outed someone else because of XYZ. That's blasphemy to me. It's blasphemy to me. The coming out and how one decides to do that, it's a sacred moment. And once someone steals that moment for you, you can no longer do that because now you've been outed. Someone took away the opportunity for you to say what you needed to say and how you needed to say it and when you needed to say it. There are many people who decide when, where, if, and to whom. But to take that away from someone is, gosh, it's sacrilegious to me. It's betrayal on one of the grandest scales.
Yes. There's a story that you actually tell that I remember that you told, even on a different platform, but as far as taking somebody else's story to tell or outing them, it makes me think about your story of how you ended up staying in the Marine Corps based off of a story that I would like you to share if you're willing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Googleable. It's if you Google on YouTube, Marine Reflects 10 years, Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy anniversary, something like that, something along those lines. It'll come up with this face. And basically it was just a story of me sharing. I was in Recruiting Station, New York as an administrative chief. And at that time, the policy was still in place. And there was a young man named Tyler Clementi who had decided to come out. Now, I was in New York. He was in New Jersey. Didn't know the young man or anything like that, but it was the proximity, but I'll get back to that. But he decided to come out. And again, I guess he figured, hey, I'm at Rutgers University. I'm away from family and friends. I'm starting life anew. And, this is it. This is my new life. So he came out from what I understand, came out to his family, church, and he was kind of excommunicated or distanced or whatever. He told his roommate, he asked his roommate for the room because I guess he had a date. And so the roommate suspected that he was gay, gave him the room, but he left his computer recording. And his suspicions were validated, and he took a recording of him and this other guy that Tyler was dating kissing, and he sent it around the Rutgers University. And it went viral, and Tyler Clementi jumped off the George Washington Bridge and committed suicide. That event, in our field, significant emotional event, that was one of those things that happened, and, I'll always remember that moment. And I remember seeing it on the news, and I was just messed up for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, crying and it was bad. And again, I even had to hide my sadness for that occasion because I didn't want to be outed or suspicious. So, but I wrestled with that, and I had made up the decision that I was getting out of the Marine Corps because at that point I realized that I was in somewhat of a loveless relationship. Here I am willing to lay on a grenade for really strangers, if that's what it cost to win the fight. But then the person that I love isn't even good enough to get a flag folded on behalf of a grateful nation. And I was just like, yeah, I think I'm done here. And then, of course, the guilt of and shame of being this successful Marine, making it, climbing up the ranks, and Tyler needed me. He needed to see me. He needed a role model. But I was too busy winning. I was too busy succeeding, closeted, for him to have someone to relate to, because representation matters. So yeah, I was deciding I was getting out. But literally a year later, to the month, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies was repealed. And I decided to stay. And I decided to stay in a big way. I decided that, going back to resiliency again, I decided that, I am not going to let anybody else closet me. Be it to the grave, Tyler to the grave, promising Tyler from the grave that, this is for all the young people who have ended their lives because they did not have the role models that they sought or desperately needed. That I would be that I would be present, that I would be, for some that say I'm passable, even when people don't know it, I make sure that they do, just because I need them to know that I'm in the room. And thanks for even mentioning family, because the first thing that some have said is, well, why do you always have to bring up your sexual orientation? And, my response is very simple. Well, why do you? Because when you... That picture on your desk, you talking about your family, that family day event, the Marine Corps birthday ball, all the different occasions, you talking about the certain locations you went to this weekend. Some people even what you did this weekend and it was a lie. And so all these things going on, you're actually articulating who's cute in the movie and all this other stuff. You are displaying your sexual orientation every day.
Yeah.
But it's not until someone who is not heterosexual articulates their sexual orientation, it's a problem.
Right.
We start hearing ridiculous things like, leave the kids alone. What?
Right.
I've been seeing Snow White get kissed while she was asleep without her consent. Whole other story there.
Yes.
I've been seeing Little Mermaid kissing Eric. I've been seeing Cinderella Chris kissing Philip. I didn't seen I didn't see even. I
didn't seen lions. I didn't seen Simba and Nala.
But you want me to leave kids alone? Right. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, how is it that I'm whatever? So they say, oh, well, they don't need any. They don't need to be learning about sexuality. No, what you mean to say is they don't need to be learning about homosexuality because you're okay teaching them heterosexuality.
Exactly.
So again, because if you want me to leave the kids alone, then what you need to do, you need to remove all that out of the curriculum.
Right. What it makes it interesting to me, and one thing that I found, especially in being on this side of work of what I do now, is like people automatically consider that they think that if you consider or you're empathetic to the other side, that it takes a subscription to that side. I am a heterosexual male. I've told I can't keep my family or my wife's name out my mouth. I'm constantly. I know where I stand when it comes to my sexual orientation, but just because I recognize or I see somebody else who's not on the same aspect or spectrum that I'm on, doesn't mean that I have to be gay, right? Like, just because it was interesting. I had a Marine come to see me at work one time, and it was during the month of June, which is Pride Month. And we do like special observations at work to where we have these special observations.
Posters.
Yep, we got posters up. You got certain, just gives you like clips, narratives of people who have previously served, that how they just try to make it relevant. And there was a Marine that came to see me and was very concerned. He came to my office, one of those like, hey, can I shut the door? I trust you enough to have this conversation with you. And he was like, hey, look, Kev. I won't say the religion, but I'm a certain religion. And I feel like all this stuff is being pushed. Like how dare they? They can't force me to recognize them. And he was very agitated at the fact that it was Pride Month. He was furious. And I heard the Marine out, and, he's like, well, what do you think? And I pretty much told him, I was just like, hey, just because it's Pride Month doesn't mean that you have to date a man. It doesn't take a subscription to be a homosexual for you to recognize that there's other type of people in the room. And I specifically remember that interaction because you could tell he was having a hard time computing that knowledge, because I think we're so focused on just seeing things from an ethnocentric approach, right?
Sure.
Only from our view, based off of our beliefs. And
Majoritarianism as well.
Yes, can you speak on that, please?
Yeah, just the majority always rules. And so if the majority is heterosexual, then everybody else is broken.
Yes.
If the majority is white, everyone else is broken. If the majority, we can go on. If the majority is male, everybody else is broken. And so, and what you're really talking about is going back to the gay homosexuality piece. This is where you hear the term toxic masculinity. One of the things, one of the traits of toxic masculinity in any extremist group is it's not just enough to not be those things, but you have to disavow those things. You have to hate those things. You have to be anti those things in order to be. And again, I would ask yourself, to be a part of any group, to require me to hate another group.
It's true.
You start asking questions.
Yes.
And again, don't get me wrong, because hey, it is what it is. But what always baffles me is, you'll have some folks who will chant about the rights of the American citizens, and even the religious rights. So this person,
yes.
I could imagine, but yet, while they chant and they want their religious rights while taking away someone else's rights. And so when you're telling someone not to engage in the particular observance, as far as no one's telling you got to go to a gay parade or
right.
You got to go get you a same-sex partner, because the day the military or the United States tells you have to have, that's when they're forcing.
That's a problem. Yeah.
That's when it's forcing whatever views on it. But what the military or what the DOD or whoever entity we're talking about is telling you to treat those people with dignity and respect.
Yes.
If your religion forbids that, I got questions.
Yeah.
And again, choice is most religions that I know of. It's about choice. It's about choosing. You get to choose, life or death, or you get to choose whatever. If you interpret my life as whatever, that's between me and God. Why are you engaged? Why do you care? Why does that matter to you?
Yeah, well, they say you don't even go here.
You don't even go here, right? And something else that say, what I eat don't make you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that part.
So it's just, it's yeah. And again, so many conversations like that. Because even people come to me, and again, some know, some don't know. And it's just like, I can, so, and again, this is not me attacking Christianity, but it's just looking at, when we start talking about rights, and I just don't want to be a part of that. Imagine not being a Christian in this country and Christmas being shoved down your throat. Every time you sneeze, someone's asking God to bless you. Every time, there's hardly any 13th floors on any buildings around here, because the 13 is supposed to be a bad luck because of the Last Supper. Judas Iscariot was the 13th person to show up. Friday the 13th, because again, so it's just, there's so many different things. Yeah. You'll hear terms on evaluations like water walker. There's so many different things that are tied into Christianity that are really forced down people's throats. Ceremonies where ask everybody to please stand and let's say a prayer. Well, no. You've asked, and my response is no. Or more importantly, I'm not answering. I'm just sitting here.
Yes.
Because I may not want, but you're expected to do, is my point.
Yes.
And again, having happy holidays, we can think of all the chow halls and different places that do stuff during the Christmas holiday. And people who say, oh, Christmas isn't really a Christmas celebration. It's in the name, for goodness sake. Christ's feast. What? How badly
pinnacle.
are you in denial? Right.
Yes.
Or you think you can put an X into it? No, it's still the same thing.
Exactly.
So it's just,
You bring up a good point because, I mean, and this is, I would consider myself a Christian, but again, an ethnocentric mindset of like, I'm so normalized to believe from my account. It wasn't until I realized, even the people we serve with, right? We have people of all different religions, but we think about like the Muslim culture,
yes.
Or the Muslim religion, to where, they observe Ramadan, where they actually, they fast from sun up to sundown. And I thought to myself, I've never ever seen like our chow hall facilities or the places that we eat at on base ever adapt their working hours to accommodate.
Yep.
Yes. Nope. Or nope. Never have I ever had to put in a religious accommodation to take my Christmas break. Yep. But just all these different things, some of it, going back to the unlearning, it was like the first time I heard it, I could have chose to, doesn't apply to me, so therefore it's not so. Right, it's not my business. But I think it really takes a individual to reach past that in order to see or to be empathetic to somebody else's position.
Sure.
Great point. Now, as far as your growth in the military, I mean, you spent 28 years in the military. He's going to probably try to act all humble and everything, but he ended as the highest rank on the enlisted side, which is the Master Gunnery Sergeant, as an E9 in the Marine Corps. Can you kind of take us through your growth as a Marine and how it played into who you are as a person?
One thing I can appreciate, of the many things that I can appreciate about the military is, particularly with the active duty, we pretty much rotate every 3 years.
Yes.
So 36 months, and it gets exhausting. You just when you figure stuff out, you figure out the good places to eat, you figure out the shortcuts to get to work, whatever. You got orders, and it's time to find another location, and so. And even around the 2-year mark, you start scratching and itching. You start getting anxiety,
Agreed.
And I can't even imagine the family dynamics behind that. I've had the privilege of just being on this journey pretty much on my own. But the idea of snatching people out of school and work and all that stuff, like, wow, hats off. But I think not necessarily giving the military so much credit, but I can appreciate that those were all, every 3 years, it was a different adventure, a different recipe, a different set of ingredients, different people, different interactions, and having to adapt to those or having to lead those. Again, when you get somewhere and everybody's phenomenal, that's a wonderful place to be.
Right.
But admittedly, I've loved showing up to offices that were falling apart. That's where I really got to crack my knuckles and do my thing, to see what I'm made of. And it wasn't proving anything to anybody else. It was constantly proving it to myself. I wanted to see what else was there. And so I enjoyed the discomforts of going to different places and using, as we say in the gym, different sets of muscles to actually grow and expand, to, actually do some reps in areas, and you being from Atlanta, you may have skated more than the average person, because that's kind of what y'all do. That's the room on the street. That's the room on the street.
But hey, shout out Golden Glide. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we in there.
Case in point. But for us non-skaters, that go every once in a long while, and I'm talking about a single digit every year. When you go skating, there are muscles. There are, and you don't know to the next day,
right?
Because there's some soreness, and like you don't even know how to stretch, because you don't even know what muscle that is
exactly
to actually do something about it. You just know it hurts.
Yes.
So I think when you show up to different duty stations with different people, different socializations, different. It's just different, and my favorite question, now what? You show up and now what? This is your office. This is your team.
Yes.
Now what?
Yes.
In military, we didn't get to sit on some hiring panel.
No.
And okay, this one, let's look at these interviews and let's pick the best of the best. Now, sometimes you get the worst of the worst.
Amen.
You get a record book and you say, "Oh my goodness."
Yes.
And we have as administrator, we have the access to all your information, so we see who's coming, and it's like this one's going to be a challenge. But admittedly, and egotistically, I'll say, I've always welcomed that. Mm-hmm. I don't have to do much leading to someone who already has it together. It's the person who comes and who didn't come from a wholesome family and who didn't have this and doesn't have this and whatever. And for goodness sake, I can relate to them. That's when leading begins. And so many people. I like to differentiate the difference between a coach and a leader. A coach calls an umpire. Calls an umpire and a coach. An umpire calls strikes and balls and safe and out, and it makes the call based off. It reports what you do. Mm-hmm. Whereas a coach sees what you do and coaches you, shows you how to do or how not to do. It shows you how to fix and become a better person, a better Marine, a better leader, a better person, whatever the case may be. Yes. It allows you to do something, and that's the work. Yes. It's not just give me all perfect people. Mm-hmm. And once I get all these perfect people, then I should be out of a job at that point.
Exactly.
They don't need me.
Exactly.
But being a leader, give me your worst. Give me your give me the people who need leading. Exactly. So I can actually do my job and earn the money that I'm making.
Yeah, one of the things that I loved about serving with you, and one of the things I would say is a highlight of your leadership, is that it wasn't, from my vantage point at least, I noticed that you never really coached or led the things that were easy, right? Like just the job. Being, I tell a lot of Marines or a lot of people, especially part of our organization, is like, we get trained. They spend a lot of money on training us on how to do the basics, right? So whether it's the pool, getting inside of a pool, being able to float there for a little while, running, I would say is an occupational hazard for what we do. We constantly train towards our physical fitness test, our combat fitness tests, our MOS. We go to school for weeks to learn our job. But one of the things that I see...
Can you break down what MOS is?
Oh, so MOS is just our occupational specialty. Yeah. So like pretty much our job. Yeah. So whether it's an admin background, a supply or logistics background, we go learn our jobs and they teach us the basics or the skeletal structure of what we should be doing. The thing that I've come to love about good leaders in our organization is that they take things a step further. And rather than just teaching on the basics, they teach people's character. They learn how to mold just the humanistic aspects of who people are. And usually that's the stuff that lasts, rather than just saying, hey, Marine, hey, Devil Dog, you messed that up. Make sure you put a 1 in front of the 0 the next time. It's more of like, hey, how do we get here, motivator? And what can I do to help you understand that was a mistake that can apply to life? And how do we grow from that? Yeah. I feel like that's one thing that I used to see you do when you worked inside of our building and how you operate. You were always adamant about not just necessarily addressing the apples, but even the orchard that these apples come from, and always was trying to improve the orchard.
Well, thank you so much for that and acknowledging that and seeing that. Character, and writing a book about it later, so keep your eyes open. But character is everything, and sadly, and I'll say it now, we're starting. It appears that we're starting to get to a point in place where winning is just winning. That character is not a prerequisite. I feel that if you have character, all the other things will kind of pan out. But if we're just only focused on results, what you're saying is, I don't care how you get here. You can lie, cheat, and steal. Just give me them results. That's problematic to me.
Agree.
I'm not just trying to make you a better Marine, a better administrator, a better motor T supply person. I want you to be a better person. And I think once you become a better person, those other things are going to be the benefits of being a better person. A good person doesn't want to just do average on their job, or a good person doesn't want to do. And I'd rather, and this is hard to say out loud because it's not popular, but I'd rather lose right than win wrong. Having character and you know, gotta chap this out a little bit. You know, some people just love quoting Dr. King and, you know, and trying to just be dismissive of diversity and stuff, you know. Well, even Dr. King said, you know, that he doesn't want to be judged by his race, but on the content of his character. Kevin, what we're seeing now, the people that being selected for stuff, they have none.
Yes.
Matter of fact, the people who doing the selecting have none.
Agreed.
So again, as somebody said here recently, keep MLK's name out your mouth. You know, so not to even go down that hole, or that rabbit hole, but I think character is such an important trait and just sense
Billy,
of being.
If I could stop you right there,
Yeah.
I mean, there may be some of our listeners out there who may see things absolutely different than you, where we hear, oh, well, we're in a results-based organization. All we have to do is just win the war.
Yes.
We are war fighters. Let's just win the war, and that's going to be what it's going to be. And I don't need you to be nice to me. There's not, what do they say? It's not likership. This is leadership. All these different narratives that they put together to oppose what you're saying, and by saying that we should have character there. It reminds me of, and I would ask that if you could explain it to us, but like it reminds me of the concept of when you talk about how we have two different types of moral reasoning.
It's again, you're dealing with you know, consequentialist moral reasoning and categorical moral reasoning. And categorical moral reasoning is really based off of something is categorically wrong. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. It doesn't matter what those elements are. And again, this will all be written in my book later on, but it's not.
That means it's copyrighted, folks.
But the concept still lies that it's not. It doesn't. The outcome is the outcome, but who are you for that outcome? The outcome, how you get the outcome matters. Again, if it's easy, it's usually wrong. Some could argue, and again, with that concept, and whoever would challenge me and say, oh, it doesn't matter, just end results, we're effective base and whatever, we just want to win the war, then the answer is, let's just drop atomic bombs every time we get into a conflict with somebody. It would win.
True.
But is that who we are? Is that who we want to be? Is that who we claim to be? So again, fighting with character, knowing that it's going to cost us some things, knowing it's going to cost us some shedding of blood and losing of some brothers and sisters, that's the cost. But each of us, we knew that signing up. So I think the character piece of that. So that's the categorical. Some things are just categorically wrong. But consequentialist moral reason bases its morality solely based off of the consequences. You know, what is the outcome? What is the outcome? Well, I'm gonna do this, even though it's wrong, because you know. This is less wrong than that type of thing, and it's just based off the consequences, or I'm going to do something, or I'm not going to do something because I don't want to get embarrassed, or I don't want to whatever. And it's like, no. Some could even argue that this was consequentialist moral reasoning.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the Department of Defense or the United States of America ever, a president of the United States at the time, no one did this because it was the right thing to do. There's a term by Derek Bell. He coined a term called interest convergence. And what interest convergence is you'll do something for the black community because it benefits the white community. It wasn't because it's the right thing to do, but consequentially, you know, and that's why I've never been a fan of the all ships rise with the tide. Why? Some ships don't need to rise. They're fine where they are. We need to have a conversation about the ships that are marginalized or overlooked or looked over or discriminated against or deliberately disenfranchised. Those are the ships that need to be risen, not the yachts. But if you just throw water at it and everybody gets lifted up, what did we do? Nothing.
Right.
But yeah, so it's consequentialist moral reasoning and categorical moral reasoning. But again, boils down about character. Who are you? And who do you want to be? Who do you claim to be? And goodness gracious, and Dr. King again, that the one day, hopefully one day, and it isn't today, that we will live up to the true meaning of our creed as a nation, who we claim to be. But I still don't see that we're there yet.
Yes.
Doesn't say that we're not working on it, and I'm definitely not a positivity propagandist. I'm not going to, well, at least, I don't live in the land of at least. Are we there or not? No? Okay. And we keep working.
Yes.
I'm not one to say, well, instead of 50 slashes, I only got 30. What? That's a relative deprivation. I'm not going to celebrate because it's less than, it's not as bad as it used to be for this group of people. I'm not doing it. No. I'm not sounding no trumpets. I'm not celebrating. You're not getting no confetti from me. No, we're not who we claim to be.
Yes.
Period. That's all I got.
Yeah, there's a certain quote that I remember when I first met you. I checked in here in New Orleans. We spoke, and after probably about the third conversation, you spoke about positivity, and it was something that I went straight to my board that was in my office at the time, and I wrote up, and it was something to, and hopefully I don't misquote you, but it was something to the fact of a lot of people worry about positivity so much that they prefer it over truth.
We are so obsessed with positivity that we prefer it over truth. Yeah,
I think about that quote often. And even for somebody who in the military, I've been the recruiter that smiles in your face, gives you all the positive.
It's the job.
Yeah, it's the job. But, I know how to put on the smile and use positivity as, I wouldn't say a weapon, but how to equip myself with positivity. But sometimes, when I think about that quote, it's like we really do choose positivity at times more than truth, where the truth may actually be, in fact, what people need to hear. And that's one thing that I've loved about our friendship together is because you pride yourself on centering yourself on the truth. And of course, there is relative deprivation when it comes to whose truth, and we may have a lot of different truths, but I think that has us lean into a conversation of like even being here on the Salad Bowl of like, what is your truth and how does it fit into my truth? And maybe those things come together, maybe they collide, but literally part of what we do as far as being service members or just living in this life, conflict is involved, but we can have healthy conflict.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I've seen in our country I'm really having a hard time with right now, because it's okay for us to disagree.
Indeed.
And it's not a positive thing. It could be very negative. I could be on this side of the spectrum. You could be on the other side of the spectrum. But how do we talk about these things? There's a healthy way to talk about these things to where people don't walk away and say, you know what? That person their character is totally screwed up. I don't like this person and I just detach from them. I think that we could do so much better in just our communication.
And I agree. I think it goes back to you talking about wicked. Taking one's socialization and understanding and in an effort to be empathetic to what you're seeing. And I'm not sure that happens. I remember the summer of 2020 and just how ice cold some people were. And that bothered me. It bothered me because, again, you'll pay money to go to a movie and cry. You're in the safety of a movie theater watching a film that you know is going to happen because that's why you paid to go watch it. Right. And you'll cry when the part comes on. You've paid money to go feel something, but you couldn't feel for the many who again highlighted during the summer of 2020 and previously and post summer 2020. That's always affected me, and yes, and I'll incorrectly quote James Baldwin. We can disagree just fine until your truth involves my freedoms.
This is true. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we got a problem.
Yeah.
we will collide, and
Yes.
it will be a problem because once this whole idea of taking away something from somebody just seems to be the thing to do now. I want to deprive people of this. They don't have the right to do this, and they shouldn't have the rights to do it. This whole conversation of depriving people of stuff that person. Excuse me, but that person gets. That's problematic to me, especially in this nation. And again, it's history repeating itself. It's certain folks trying to keep other people from having what they got.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting because again, it's like when it shows up, it's like, what did we learn from the last time?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly.
We as a nation learn nothing because we're doing it again. We're having the same conversation, just with different dates and different people, different suits, ties, and dresses.
Yeah, but I feel like it's so. When I think about things like that, I can recognize that these feelings don't come out of nowhere, right? Things are driving people to feel where they want to deprive. It actually reminds me of, I have a really good friend of mine. His name is Eddie Priest. Shout out Eddie. Really good friend of mine. He's a white male. We served together. He's no longer in the Marine Corps, but is a true friend of mine. And I remember when we first met, we were in the office setting together, and we were having a disagreement, and it was about interpersonal type things. We were talking about border control and who do you support as far as politics, and we were talking about when President Trump was talking about building a wall at the time. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's hands off. We don't talk about that at work." But we were leaning into it, and I actually would say that a lot of the reason why we're friends today is because we leaned into a lot of conversations that neither one of us understood our certain aspects of it. But I remember this specific conversation we were having, and we were talking about the wall. And I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I've never lived close to the border. I was just like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Why are we building a wall? I don't want my money to go to that. And he said Mexico's got. There was just a lot of things that I just could not get to as far as my reasoning. And he was all for this wall. And I was like, dude, that sounds so stupid. And in having this conversation, one of the things that was revealed was like, he actually grew up very close to the border. And he said, unfortunately, I've seen what happens at the border where I've had people, come over the border illegally. And actually, I was scared for my life walking home from school every day because they used to jump me. They used to beat me every day because they called me a gringo or they called me whatever. And they were in this country illegally. And I actually had some fear, which whether we ended up agreeing on the issue or not, it helped me understand where those feelings came from, that there was a narrative behind the feeling of, hey, I do want this wall because now it taps into how I feel safe, rather than a guy in Georgia where I'm just like, it just sounds like we about to waste some money and start some trouble. And I think that's where, again, we're not here to all agree with each other. And part of being in a salad bowl is that maybe all the ingredients are different, but like, can we come together in some kind of respect and actually just be empathetic? I think that's been the narrative of this entire time we've been talking. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, everything don't go on a salad.
True, true. Everything don't go on the salad.
But but at the same time, I look at again, and what the harmony of what this country claims to be, and what this country really is, and what it's going to be in the future, and time will tell that story. But we all hear the story and of what it claims to be about the rights and stuff like that, and so yeah, it'll tell its story. I'm still not in a place right now to, particularly this forum, to talk about politics,
of course,
specifically as they go here now. But
understood.
Again, it goes back to constantly depriving people of other things. I would have asked your friend, shout out Eddie, right?
Eddie, yeah. Eddie.
And, this is just, but it's what did the little black boy do when he got jumped by all the white kids, and he was called a nigger instead of a gringo? What wall did we build?
That's a very good point.
And this is, oh, by the way, has been happening historically. There were laws that enforced that. There were signs. And so now all of a sudden that it's something is impacting the majority, or the majority of the people, the identity of the majoritarians that are in power right now. Now all of a sudden, let's do something about it. Now this becomes an issue.
It's a very good point.
They're and even with the they're raping and they're murdering and they're whatever. And again, I'm so sorry that that's happening, but bringing it back to the forefront to some of the other conversations that I've had with some of these same influencers and folks who want to inquire about all the heinous things that are happening with the migrants. Well, I recall a time where everybody wanted to know, well, what about black on black crime? So now I ask the question, what about American on American crime?
Yeah.
Why is these incidents that are happening, and what's the numbers? Are they outpacing us from murdering and raping our own folks? Give me the stats. Tell me how heinous this really is. One is too many. I agree. But what are we doing about it when folks are doing this? And some can argue, how bad is well, see, I'm about to get into the.
Go ahead.
No, I don't literally don't want to, because again, if rape was such a concern, let me just say this, and I'm gonna, I'll
put a pin in it right there.
But if rape was such a concern, I don't think everybody would be in the positions that they were in. That they were elected to be in, or that they currently are in. If rape was such a concern to everybody, then yeah.
So. We could let that sit right there. I mean, yeah. Well, one, I would say that your insight on that, and that's something I never thought about, even in the conversation. I can't go back to that conversation in 2016, but this is one thing I love about our relationship, Billy, is that you push my mind to continue to work past what is comfortable stopping at, right? Like, hey, there's been plenty of times you and I have had conversation, and it's not even a forceful thing, but you always have the next consideration ready for us to build the people around you. I truly appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Truly appreciate that. As we start nearing the conclusion of our podcast, of course, we call this the Salad Bowl podcast because we like to explore exactly what you've been showing us for the past time that we've been talking, how unique we are and how we can all still come together and make a fantastic dish. If there is a ingredient that goes on a salad that you think that you best compare to, what would it be, and how does it bring, or what qualities do you bring to the salad bowl of life?
Well, there's an exercise that's been done. I will say, strangely, it would be a seafood salad. But I would be the unedible pearl.
Tell me more.
And I appreciate the pearl because of what it does. The pearl is so symbolic to me because when you look at an oyster, it's not the pearl that matters. It's the grain of sand that slid into the oyster that caused havoc and caused the pearl to create this beautiful mucus because it was a discomfort. And so it made the pearl eventually create something beautiful. And that's what the pearl represents to me. And again, it's not the beauty of the pearl, it's the being that irritant, being that person that says, that ain't right, being the person that resists the status quo, that person that defies gravity,
wicked.
the person who says the thing that needs to be said. Mm-hmm. That's the little grain of and letting the world being the world's irritant. We were talking earlier. A lot of my leaders, the people who I look up to, they were all irritants. They were the Harriet Tubmans. They were the Douglass, Frederick Douglasses. They were the MLKs. They were the Malcolm X's. They were the, just the folks the James Baldwins, the ones who are going to create havoc until things are the way they need to be. And again, won't sit around singing and celebrating because they're not as bad, but continuing to cause the havoc, to continuing to be that irritant so we can have a more beautiful country, so we can have a more beautiful world.
Man, that was a beautiful answer, a beautiful answer. I do want to allow you an opportunity at the end of, seeing as though we're about to conclude here, an opportunity that you want to specifically tell our listeners. Seeing as though this is a new venture, I don't know how many people will be watching. Really, to tell you the truth, I didn't put this thing together, or I didn't go on this venture because I cared about the views or the likes. Literally, I wanted to do something because there are stories like yourself, like your story that you shared with us over the last hour or so, that really need to have a light shined on it, or shown on it. And I do want to just allow you here at the end of the conclusion of our podcast to give whatever message you want to give to our listeners. Give them a little, I would say 2 cents, but I know anything that comes out of your mouth is worth way more than 2 cents, Billy. But
Thanks, brother.
I just want to provide you the platform, and then we'll conclude.
I just encourage people to read more, be more aware of our surroundings. I think sometimes we get so caught up in our small little universe that we don't look at the bigger picture. And that can be problematic to the mainstay. Start looking again at our culture. Start asking yourself, did what our ancestors went through, would they be pleased with what you're doing with yourself? Would they be pleased with the sacrifices that were made on their behalf? Because make no mistake about it, we stand on their shoulders. And making it not for nothing. And again, that's not a judgment call. It's not a us versus them. It's just making sure that the juice was worth the squeeze. The investments that were put into us, and then what will our grandchildren say about us? One of the last chapter of this book called The Unthinkable Age, such a powerful, powerful, powerful chapter and reading. And he talks about this painting that this artist did. And it's the painting, I believe, is called it's something of Germany. The name, the exact name splits my mind, but it's this big wooden hall, and the painting is humongous. If you were to stand in front of it, it would swallow you up. You're like small, and this is a humongous painting, and it's a wooden hall, and one of the things that you notice is there's a bunch of fire in that hall. And those of us who are, any type of safety or operational risk management type of thing, you look at it and you see this is foolishness of this fire around all this wood. And when you look at the painting, you'll see that there were names written under each of the lanterns. And those were the names of the people who lit up Germany through good things. But we all know what happened. The same fire that lit it up can cause it to combust and be on fire. And the purpose of him creating a painting so large is to challenge you because you're in history. What will you do here? What will you do in history today? What will you tell your grandchildren? Will you be proud of your actions about what you did when it was your turn. There's another book, what to do when it's your turn. And it's always your turn. What to do. And there's a picture of a lady on the front cover, and she looks all distinguished, but that was the woman who went to vote and tore the place up once they refused her the right to vote. She tore the place up. She was that irritant. She tore the place up. She tore it just enough to get her in the news. That was the beginning of the women's suffrage movement. What will we do when it's our turn? So my message to you is, again, it's our turn. This is our time in history. And this is not something, again, it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be a spectator sport. Pay attention to what's going on around you and do your part. A lot of people paid a lot of price for us to be where we are. And we can't allow folks to take it away from us. And again, can't rest on the laurels of those who sacrificed before us. Yeah. So we got to do our part, and it's our turn.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that. As we conclude here, I just want to tell you a couple of things, man. One, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come sit down and talk with me. I know we have a friendship, but sometimes there's levels to certain friendships to where, you may ask a friend to do something and you're like, I don't know if they really going to come out and support me, Sure. And I always say I'm just a regular guy just trying to do something right in this world. And I just want to say thank you for your support, not only as a friend, but as a mentor of mine. I also want to tell you I love you, man.
Love you back.
And as we've known each other, you've taught me so much, and I'm more than appreciative for the time that you've invested into me, because I truly think it makes me a better father, makes me a better husband, makes me a better person in general. And I think that is one of the standout reasons why I asked you to come here to the Salad Bowl, because you deserve to be celebrated, brother. So
I so appreciate that. And Thank you. And if I can return it, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I mean, you told me that you were starting this journey, and again, I'm honored to be a part of what you're doing. And just as I just said, this is you being the irritant. Yes. This is you doing your part to be a part in history. And I love the era that we're in, because this podcast and it's going to last forever.
Yes,
your great grandchildren will be able to see this.
Yes.
Or they were, your relatives, period, will be able to see this. And that's I was related to him. I have some of that in my veins. And these are the moments. So I appreciate it. I'm honored to be a part of it. And I'm humbled and glad that you considered me to be a part of what you're doing in history today.
Yeah. And I hope, just like what you were just saying, I hope that it's my biggest hope that if people are watching this years and years from now, that they sit here and see two gentlemen talking about being on the right side of history. And I hope it plays out that way. And I truly am optimistic that it will play out that way, because there's a lot of effort, like you said, that goes into this, and we stand on the shoulders of giants and just want to do right by them. So thank you so much, Billy.
Thank you.
And this is definitely one of these episodes that I'm just going to definitely look back and smile, probably cry a little bit, write down some notes. You dropped a lot of, if you didn't have a notepad with you, you probably missed some gems that Billy dropped this episode. Right. So what we'll do is we'll definitely make sure that in our credits, we'll put how you could possibly reach out to Billy, whether it's through social media, but make sure that you like and comment on the episode on today,
and share, right?
And please do share as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we get the word out. We got to spread the good news. So please, if you watch it one time, if you watch it in spurts, please take some of the information that we talked about, consider it. Sometimes with feedback, you can consider it and throw it out, say, hey, that doesn't apply to me. But these conversations mean a lot, not just between two brothers, but also within this world. So thank y'all. We'll see you next time on the Salad Bowl.
Thanks again.
Bye. All right.